Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today I thought I would do the second part of my little video on the super cheap SD2IEC unit I got off eBay. And in the last video I went through and had a quick look at the actual unit as it arrived, but we couldn't go any further because the C64 had decided to die, and it's still dead, it's here. But I managed to dig out my spare C64, and this is fortunately in working order. We will do a video on getting this one back up and running. I'm not 100% sure what's happened with this actually, because I have repaired it once in the past. It's a backup C64 that someone gave me. This C64 here is actually my C64 from back in the day. I got that in I think I got this in about 1990. I didn't actually use it for very long, I must admit. I had my Amstrad CPC, and my friend had a C64, and I didn't actually know that many people with a CPC. Not the 6128 anyway. I know a few people that had 464s, but believe it or not, actually back then I didn't actually realise you could connect a tape drive up to the back of a 6128. So all the software that I had back then was on disc, and I didn't actually have that much of it. So I managed to convince parents that I really needed a different computer, and I got a Commodore 64. Actually, because one of my friends had a Commodore 64, and he said it was great. So I got this, and 6 months later he got a Commodore Amiga, and gave his 64 to his younger brother. So anyway, I persevered with this for a little while, and then eventually I managed to convince my mother that I really needed an Amiga. So I didn't actually get a lot of use this computer back in the day. It basically just got shoved back in a box. But yeah, so that's why it's actually not bad condition. It's a little mucky from storage now, but it's not yellowed really because it didn't actually spend that much time out in use. But anyway, let's get back on to what I was doing. Basically, all I've done, I've connected the SD2IEC up, and I went on the Future Was 8-Bits website, and on there you can download basically the file browsers and everything you need for this for free, plus some extra little bonusy things that I managed to get on that card as well. What I have noticed, which is getting more and more difficult to get, are large stocks of .d64 files. There used to be loads of places online where you could pretty much go and just download, you know, 500 megs worth of .d64 images, all the games and everything you want, and over the last couple of months they seem to have mostly disappeared. All the ones I used to use seem to have disappeared. Fortunately, I do have like vast stocks stored away on a hard drive, but I haven't had time to basically go into all my archives of old hard drives and find all my old Commodore 64 disk images. So we're going to be a bit stuck to what came in that file I downloaded from the Future Was 8-Bit for actual testing, but at least we can actually show the system's actually up and running and actually get something to load. So I'll put you over onto the screen. I have got it connected up to this screen that I usually use with my Amiga. And I must admit, I might actually do away with the CRT up here. I might repurpose that for somewhere else. Mainly because this screen that I'm using here has actually got S-video input, and the cable I've got for this C64, or one of my cables I've got, the one I've actually found at the moment, is gives S-video out of the C64, which is quite a nice crisp image. That little CRT has only got composite on it, so what it does mean is I can use the RGB output from the Amiga into the back, and I can use the side input on the other AV channel on S-video with my Commodore 64, and I never really use the two together. So yeah, let's switch on the C64. And as you see, it just comes up like any other normal C64 would do. So it's not a bad picture, that. There is a little bit of jail barring on it, but that's quite normal with a S-video image, unfortunately. I'm sure there are some mods you can do to eliminate that a bit, but at least it's quite a nice, crisp, stable image, and it's a lot sharper than you get from even composite. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, I'm sure there's other ways of using these, and I can't actually find out what the hell this little switch thing does, because when I press it, it really doesn't do anything. I've tried holding it down while you boot up, I've tried pressing it while it's booted, I've tried all sorts, and I can't get it to do a thing. So, like I said, I don't really know what that switch is for, but what we can do is we type load, and then we need a quote, and then we type FB quote comma 8, and like the comma 8 is basically just because this is like your standard disk drive. That's the same we would load. That's basically the same what you would type if you was just loading from a floppy disk. Press enter. You can't see it down here, but the actual green light came on the SD2IEC there. So we've got loading ready. If we type run, this should run the file browser. You can see that's loading now. And there we go. The file browser, can't speak now. The file browser actually does load okay. And there is various things in here we can get to. It's nicely set up. This software has actually been set up for both the C64, lots of other Commodore machines, and actually the ZX Spectrum. There's a few ZX Spectrum things on here, but it's just one download to use for a couple of different applications. It's only about 10 meg download as well, it's not big. We don't have to worry about that first one, that's just actually the executable I just downloaded, put it on the SD card and ran it from there on the Windows PC. So you could delete that, that's not actually needed, that first one. The first one there is a directory that's got all the Commodore stuff in it. It is pretty much an empty directory, but as you see, it's set up C128, C16 plus 4, C64, tools and utils, and a VIC-20. We can we'll go back out of there. It's quite easy to navigate. The ZX Spectrum, obviously we don't want to bother looking in there, it's just ZX Spectrum stuff. But what we do want to have a look at is this, where it says tfw8b.com, which is actually another directory on here. And this is some of like the little extras that they've put on from the future was 8-bit. And we go to CBM on here. You've got it's not, I mean, the C64 dead test, it's not, it's just documentation showing you how to use it, but there's some games and some stuff to actually show you can actually get this thing up and running. We'll see if we can get a game to load. There we go. Obviously I am going to get some of my own software and actually get some decent software on here, but for the moment it just shows we can actually get the thing up and running. Hopefully it'll load here. And obviously that's the only other thing is I haven't got a fast loader or anything installed on this thing, so it does take some time to load. It is as slow as loading off the old C64 floppy disks. Like I said, they were not a fast system. You could put a fast load cartridge in, and obviously that would help matters a lot. But for me, I don't mind too much. I mean, I had cassettes back when I had a C64 for a very, very brief time. Someone loaned me actually a bread bin C64 and a disk drive and a printer. But by that time I'd actually already got my Commodore Amiga, and I messed about with it for a few weeks and then gave it them back. But that was my only experience back then of really messing about with discs. It weren't until like later on that I managed to like get other disk drives and stuff and actually get a system set up. Have I actually got this to load? Something's come on. There we go. Put some volume on, I think. I don't know what you actually have to do on this game, but Well, indeed, if it is a game, it could just be a demo. I don't think so, though. No, I'm afraid I haven't got a clue what you do on here. Nope. I was hoping that like quit you back to a menu or something, but no, it doesn't. Doesn't do anything. But anyway, yeah, at least I can prove like it does actually work. So bear in mind this unit, this where is it there now? You can see it back there. That little SD2IEC was only £27. And like I said, the most places that are selling these are like £50 or £45. Okay, yes, they come in a nice little case, and yes, they come with an SD card. But I mean, the SD card's nothing. All I've got here is its little, if you look, we've just got one of them little SD2 micro SD adapters. It's a little micro SD card. It's just a little 2 gig card, that. And you can get these dirt cheap now. Small. I prefer smaller cards. I don't like using like big 8 gig cards because you just end up with a load of clutter on it. I'd rather have a load of half gig or 1 gig cards, and at least you can keep track of what's on what. But you can buy these online dirt cheap. I think these are 2 gig ones, and I got 5 of them for like a tenner delivered. The second hand, and they what basically have come out of old like Android tablets and mobile phones and stuff like that. And there's loads of sellers on eBay, you can pick them up, like I said, dirt cheap. So I usually pick them up and use them in one of these little adapters for stuff like this. So yeah, that's the unit working. Now what I thought I would just show you is I've come up with, I am going to buy another one of these. I'm going to buy another one. And so, cause I've got a notion about a C64 build I want to do for in my games room. And I want to install one of these internally in it for actually the loading all the software. But I'd still like to have this one externally for using, because I've not just got a C64. Obviously, I've got VIC-20. I've got in fact, I've got a video coming up on some +4s and C16s. We're going to go through my dregs pile and see if we can resurrect any of the final ones that I've got from a huge lot of them that I had years ago. So I want to be able to use it on like a C16 and a +4, and obviously my VIC-20 as well. So I want to case that up and be able to use it, like I said, use it around places. So with that in mind, I was digging through some of my junk. Let's spin you around and get you on my other table. Let's bring you in a little bit. Oops. Yeah, I've had a bit of a tidy up in the workshop as well. I don't know if you've, well, you won't have noticed, you won't have seen too much of it yet, but I'm still getting used to trying to find everything again. It's always the way when you do a bit of a tidy up. But anyway, I was looking through some junk, sorting some junk, and I found this. Now it's an old, obviously, compact flash and SD card reader. It's basically useless. I mean, the compact flash side of it works alright, but the SD side, it only will work with the old-fashioned SD cards. It won't actually work with SDHC cards. Which, I mean, I've got one here. That's an original SD card. You can see it's 16 megabytes, and you just get like 1632, and it's from some of the earlier digital cameras. It will actually read that. For some reason it won't format it, so there's obviously something wrong with it, but it will actually read them old SD cards. It won't even recognise an SDHC card, so it's pretty much useless. I thought, would that perhaps make quite a cool little enclosure to build the SD2IEC into? So let's crack into it and see what we can do. See if this thing's actually going to make a nice enclosure. Let's get the let's unplug that now. So unplug the SD2IEC from the C64. Come on, out you come. Adapter for the tape's bloody tight. The captain tape's just come off it as I've tried to pull it out. Just bear with me a second, folks. I'm just going to retrieve my SD2IEC out of the back of the C64. I'm going to have to come up with something better to I mean, obviously when I do one internally I won't have this problem because I can pinch my 5 volts off the board, but for one that's external it really does need that. Let's just bring that in. Yeah, I just had a little issue that there, which is what plugs into the cassette drive to get your 5 volts to actually power this unit. I was trying to pull it out and it's actually pulled the Captain tape off the top. It was that tight. Obviously these are new and it's very, very tight on the thing, so I'll have to come up with something on there. I might put a couple of cable ties actually through the holes there and put a little loop on the back so I've got something I can actually pull it out with, because obviously you don't want to pull on that wire. I might actually desolder that as well and put some proper heat shrink on it, because at the moment, oh actually it's soldered to, I don't know, I might disconnect it and put some actual proper heat shrink on there, because I don't really like the way that's done. And I will have to obviously keep this because I want to be able to use this on other systems. Saying that, if I want to use that, I can make an adapter up. If I want to use it on a C16 or a +4, obviously the tape input's different. But I can come up with something with that. I can come up with a workaround for that. Anyway, let's get that out of the way for a moment. And let's open this up and let's see if there's any chance we can actually fit that into this case. We're in. And that's more overkill than you'd expect to see, isn't it? Compared with the modern ones, you can tell it's certainly got a bit of age to it. Anyway, get that lot out of the way. I think this might work, you know. Fit it the wrong way around. Actually, it's gonna. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work, but that is actually going to fit in there perfect. I'm just going to have to put it in the other way around. That shouldn't cause a problem. Let's get a SD card. Put an SD card in there, and then we can actually figure out where this is going to come through. That'll work quite nicely, won't it? Yeah, look there. Yeah, that's going to work. That'll work quite nicely, that. Now, is that base going to go on there with where them wires are? Yeah, I think it actually is just going to go on there. I think that is going to work quite nicely. We don't need that switch. We're going to get rid of that switch for the simple reason I don't know what the hell it does. Well, get rid of it, but we'll just take it out for now. Because we don't need it for now. I think that cable there is going to actually feed out of that back hole pretty much perfectly. Yeah. And then that back will go on like that. That's going to work out really nicely. Right. What I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause you for a minute and I'll figure out how I'm going to fix this in place, and I'll get back to you and we'll have a look at it when I've actually got it, if not put together, at least a little bit further put together. So back very, very shortly. Okay, we're back, and what I've done basically is I didn't want to lose the two little LEDs you've got on here, so what I've done I drilled another little hole in the enclosure I'm going to use, and I've mounted 2 little LEDs in there. And what I did, basically I got the board, and I went on the LEDs which are on the board there with my tester. And I found out that basically these 3 pins, there's lots of little through holes on this board which aren't used. And I found that them 3 pins there are basically the centre's ground, and then the outer 2 there are the cathodes of the 2 LEDs on the board. So I put a little pin header in, and I'm just in the process. I've just stuck them down with a little bit of hot glue, and I've cut 3 wires here. So what I'm just about to do is I'm going to solder these in place on there like that, put a bit of heat shrink on it, and then when I've got this mounted up I can actually plug these 3 connectors into that bit of pin header I've just put on there. And the 2 LEDs on there will basically work as the 2 LEDs on the top of there. I think one's power and one's showing data, so I mean, I could have probably just got away with just connecting the data one up, which is the well, I think it's the green one. I don't actually know, it depends which way round I get them, that doesn't really matter. But seeing as it's only 2 and it was easy enough to drill a hole, I thought I'd do that. So let's solder this first wire in place. I think I've got a piece of heat shrink. Will the heat shrink go over the end there? Yeah, it will actually. I'll put the heat shrink there. I'll solder this first one in place. Oops. There we go. And slide that down. Just cover over like that. I would normally get my hot air rework out to melt it, to shrink this down, but because everything round it's plastic would probably melt something, so I'll just use the soldering iron, nice and gentle. Not all that critical. I don't think we're going to cause any problems with that there, but just looks a little bit neater if we actually shrink it down like that. I can chop these down because they don't need to be that long. That one off there. That one off there. I can go in my little legs pot. And I'll tin up them wires. Solder on there, a little bit of solder on there like that. Oops, that should be enough. Yeah, that'll be enough, that'll be nice like that. Just get a little bit of heat shrink to go on them as well. Oh, we've got heat shrink wires. A bit thick, huh? I thought that's thinner than that. That's far too thin. Ah, will do. Let's cut a little piece of this. Put that over there. And we'll just solder these in place as well. Oops. Get it then. Yeah, I caught the hot glue there and buried up with solder with it. Hang on a minute. That's better. Let's go back in and try that again. Oops. I need something to stop this spinning round. Let's get back in there and get that soldered in place this time. There we go. We'll drop that over there. In fact, we've dropped that right into the hot glue, and the hot glue and the heat shrink have actually become one there, so that's good. That's never going to come off. We'll just use the iron just to shrink that down. There we are. That's nicely on there. Yep, that's on there. And I've got to do the same with this one. Get that little piece of that heat shrink. This one goes onto that one there. Oops, that wasn't quite soldered then. I'm just going to add a little bit more fresh solder to this. I know this wire is brand new, but for some reason it's not the nicest of wires to actually take solder. I found that with some of the cheaper new wire, it really doesn't like taking solder. No, that's not wanting to take solder at all. Just trying cleaning the end off and redoing that again. Whether it's got contaminated with something. Oh, looks alright. Nice and shiny there, so it should take solder okay. Yeah, that piece did there, no problem. I don't know why it didn't before. Yeah, that's fine. Just get in here and perhaps just put another dab of solder on that. There we go. Nope, again. I'll tell you what, I'll pause this and I'll come back when I've actually got these in and we've got the board and you can see what it's going to look like. So again, back in a second. Okay, as you can see, I got them mounted. It's so slow, as soon as you switch the camera off it goes on straight away. So as you can see, that's them three wires soldered and heat shrinked in place with a little bit of hot glue just to keep the LEDs where I want them. And what I've done as well is I've got a bit of scrap plastic. It's actually off an old, it's an old PVR box or something. I always keep things like this about for bits of useful little plastic to fill holes. And I've cut basically a little plinth like that. And what the plan is I'm going to hot glue that down there in place. And that's basically what the SD is going to go on to. I'm not going to hot glue this down. What I'm going to do is I've got some of this fantastically strong 3M double-sided tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue that into position. And then I'm going to use some 3M tape on top of that to actually hold the SD2IEC in position, and hopefully we can connect this up. Hopefully everything will fit and we should have something that actually looks quite nice and neat. So let's get some hot glue on here. I think what we'll do, hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Not that anyone's going to be exactly copying what I'm doing, but it just gives people an idea, if they buy one of these cheapies, what you can possibly do with it. So let's stick some of that on there, and let's stick a gludge on there. That's where it's going to go down at the bottom. That should be all we need really. Shouldn't need any more than that. Let's work this while it's hot. That is hot. Ow, ow, ow. Okay, and we'll splodge that down. I haven't even cut this all that neatly. I've just I've eyeballed it basically, but that should be all we need. You can see there. Once that's set, that literally is just there to give the board something to sit on. It's just to get the height there right. If we didn't put that on, I don't think the height of well, the height wouldn't be right for that just to sit straight in through that hole there. So yeah, that's gone in. That's gone in quite nicely actually. What we could even do is, I suppose we could cut a piece of that. We'll get this in position first, and then we might even cut another piece of that and just cover in that hole at the other side that we're not going to need. Let's take this. There are a few components on the bottom, but I don't think that's going to matter too much. Pity I haven't got any of them pads actually. I used to have some of them, but I think I've used them all. Like basically the same type of stuff as this, but they've got a bit of foam in between, so they've got a little bit of thickness to them. Hopefully we'll get away with this anyway. Let's snip that down. Stick that on there. Stick that on there like that. I think we'll get away with that actually. I think that will go on okay. Let's just peel these back. Hopefully this 3M tape is usually pretty damn sticky. I've used stick circuit boards before, so I don't think we're going to have a problem here with it coming off. Take that off there, and hopefully we can stick this in position now. And that's it. Oh, is that going to stick down? Hopefully that's going to stick in position. Knowing it's them damn components, they're just not allowing it to. I wonder if I wonder if there's enough room to do this. We've got another piece of that plastic. Let's see if we can cut a little spacer out of this. I think we've got enough room to do what I'm just about planning. And that's what I like about this plastic as well. You can just score it like that. It doesn't take much to break a piece out. Kneel it. Have a look here now. Yeah, there we go. Just make a little piece like that. Let's make sure it's flat. Trim it up. And hopefully we can stick that to the bottom of there like that. That's missing all the vital parts. I don't like to stick. That's odd. For some reason that 3M tape doesn't want to stick to that PCB. We may have to resort to a tiny little dollop of hot glue. I don't think it's really going to affect it at all, to be fair, but I was hoping to use Sod. We'll use a tiny bit of hot glue. Obviously, I don't think it's going to affect it in the long run. It just means it's going to be a pain in the backside if I want to take it out of this case, but never mind. In fact, that's worked quite well. Yeah, because that's got a bit of something about it. It's just taking up the amount of slack we had. So let's just hold it there until that's gone off. We may have to flatten these down just to get enough room. That I think we're going to have to. I think we're going to have to pull them off, split them apart a bit and flatten them down just to get enough room to actually get everything to sit where we want it to sit here. Let's try connecting these up though. Yeah, I think these are going to be the same. We're going to have to bend them over. There is enough room to do that, fortunately. put that in there and give them a bend over. Should really do this with a pair of pliers, but it's okay. Oops, I bent that one over, I pulled that one out. Let's get that back in there. There we are. I mean, I suppose what I could have done is solder the wires on there, but I didn't really want to. That'll be neat enough, and they won't come off once it's all together. I have a feeling I'm going to have to do the same thing with yeah, that's going to touch as well. So we're going to have to do the same thing here, remembering which way around these go. Let's unplug them. What we'll do is we'll just we'll spread them apart a little bit. We can put that one on and bend that one that way, and put this one on and bend it the opposite way. That should just give us that bit of clearance that we there we go. So it's not ideal, but that will work, and the bottom will make sure that they don't come off as well. They're okay on there, and they're just the LED anyway. So what we need to do, we need to get that cable through where the old USB cable came when this was a USB card reader. Unfortunately, because it's a flat flex, it will actually fit. Let's see if we can get the bottom back on. That snapped on alright, and that, yeah, if we're careful how we shut this now, I think we can get all the cables we need through that hole. Yes, we can. And we've not caught anything in the screw hole for the now where's that gone? There it is. Let's get that screw back in there. Okay, there we go. Looks a bit better than a £27 one now, doesn't it? Obviously I'm going to have to put something on here to say that it's not, well, I think it'll be, you'd struggle to plug that into a modern PC, but yeah, there we go. So there's your, and that goes in okay like that. Only thing I will say is you will have to remember that the card, the way I've done it, the card will have to go in upside down, but that's no hardship really. Suppose I better actually test it on the C64 again and see if the lights actually work and what have you. Make sure it does actually still work after all that. So I'll get you back over onto the C64 and we'll connect it back up and we'll see how well my work's done. So let's swing you over to the C64 again. There we go. And we'll bring it over. Switch my hot glue off. Switch my iron off as well, because I don't need that, I don't think. Certainly better if I want to use it with my other Commodore devices as well anyway. Let's connect that back in. Definitely a very, very tight fit that. I do need to do something about that. Okay, that's connected back up. Oh, I better change the come on, there, that'll be alright like that. Can you see that there? Yep, you can see that there. We'll put the card in that we was using before to test. That's just that 16 megabyte one. And then the card in that way around. I will think about perhaps just covering over that gap at the bottom there, but let's see if it's going to work. Switch on. Well, good news is that the lights on top came on. I don't know if you could see that on the video, but let's just try make sure it is still working. Let's just load, shift, FB, shift, comma 8. and the green light came on then. So, is the red light on at all? Can't really tell, but the green light came on when we did that. Let's try run. Yeah, and the green light's come on. The red light certainly definitely came on when I first... I wonder if that's reading that's right. I don't know. I don't know how they've really set that up. But yeah, it definitely works. We've not got a lot of things we can run on it at the moment. That will change as soon as I manage to dig all my archives out. But oh, there was one game I was messing about with on here earlier. Right, frogs. Let's get my controller. And again, like I said, you're down to the old Commodore disk drive loading times. Well, it's all part of the charm, really. Doesn't really bother me too much, that. And hopefully it'll load. I'm sure I've got some games that are specky games on cassette that actually load faster than some Commodore 64 disc games do. In fact, yeah, some of the 16K games on the... there we go. I believe this is I think this is something modern. I believe it was done by someone that's been involved with the SD2IEC project, or at least someone that's involved with the Future Was 8-bit, because it comes as part of this little package that they... have put together. We'll just start the game, and basically it's a we have to knock our other frogs off, and we can't fall in. Being that we're frogs, we can't fall. Oops, we can't fall in the water. We go back to the start. We fall in the water. Yeah, so anyway, it's a fun game. I think it's for up to 4 players as well, so you all have to spend time trying to go around knocking each other's frog off. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Let's switch that off. So yeah, that is my £27 SD2IEC device. So I know there's a lot more sophisticated ones out there, and there's a lot that come with lots of software and stuff, but most of them start about £40 odd as where that was considerably cheaper. As you can see, if you can find something to house it in, it doesn't make... I think that looks quite neat and tidy, don't you? For this device. Obviously I'm going to have to stick some graphics on it to say what it is. But I will be definitely, as soon as I've got some spare money, I'll be definitely buying another of them to use in my C64 Games Room project, and actually installing it internal to the C64. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you enjoyed that little part 2 on this SD2IEC. So, thanks for watching and goodbye.